can pick wherever you want. Wherever you pick though will be should be your computer for the rest of the semester. So pick one you like, I guess. Okay, all right. Looks like I've got most of my troubleshooting out of the way. Hopefully this will work. And so let's get started. So, did I need my screen share over here for y'all? That might be important. Okay. So, hopefully you are here for intro to data analysis for our first day in the lab. We are going to talk a little bit about a couple of things and then start to use our SPSS. So, I'm Kristen, for those of y'all that don't know. I know I have at least several familiar faces, but let me jot down y'all's names real fast and where you're sitting, because the computer that you are currently at is the computer that you will stay in for the rest of the semester. So I guess we'll start with that one. Okay. Oh yeah, we have numbers. That's right. Oh, perfect. What's your name? Taylor. Okay, right. You did it. That might be the easier way to remember it. All the way in the back. It's hard to tell who people are in the back. Madison, that's what I thought. It's hard to see. What computer number do you have? 19. Cool. And let's see. Yeah, AJ in the front. What's your number? What? You have not? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No. Am I wrong? No. What am I? Oh, okay. All right. And then you're at number 9. You're fine. We're not overwhelmed with people. All right. Okay. All right. So we got all that down. Well, for the rest of you, if anybody's planning on coming on Wednesday, we'll do the same thing again, just so I can know who was who and who was where. So a couple of quick things before we really dive into SPSS. I wanted to talk a little bit about homeworks. I noticed that I forgot to say something that was kind of important. So I won't count off for you for your homework for this because this is totally my fault. But I was supposed to tell you that all pie charts, right, must be labeled, right? So when you're doing a pie chart, you need to not only have like the circles and like the little cutouts, but I need you to tell me what percentage each of those cutouts are. That was totally my fault. Did not specify that when we were going over that in the graph video, but that is something that you should know in the future. So if you have a question on your first quiz that asks you to draw me a pie chart, remember that you need to label those. So like 60% over here, right, 25% over here, it needs to have a label. And not only does it need to have a label, it also needs to have a key, right? So if your color chart is like green, blue, and red, you need to tell me what green, blue, and red represent, as well as what percentages are in that pie chart. That was my bad. But I may ask you to do that again. And if I ask you to do that again, now you have to know. Now it's no longer my fault. So that was my bad. Yep, totally missed the ball on that one. That's cool. We'll move forward. Remember, you are able to resubmit your homework. If you do not get the grade that you want, you will be able to redo the questions you got wrong, resubmit those wrong questions, and then I take the average from the first score and the second score, and that's what we go with as your grade for the homework. My goal is that I will have everything graded by tomorrow, and in that way we will be able to talk a little bit on Wednesday as well about some of the commonly missed questions, sort of what went wrong. Another thing that is going to be super helpful for you in the future is to make sure you show me as much work as possible, right? So if you go wrong somewhere, somehow, I'm able to A, sort of see where you went wrong, and B, more importantly for you, is to give you partial credit, right? So if I see that you are doing all the steps wrong, you just copied a number down wrong, and that's how you got the wrong percentage, right? Then you'll get a lot more points than if you just like randomly, I don't know, like used a totally different weird formula. So make sure you are telling me how you do things. If it is easier for you, like I'm the kind of person that if I'm doing stuff like math, I have to write it out, like doing it on the, like typing like 25 divided by like 53 equals is a weird thing for me to type out. I don't know, I always do all of my stuff by hand. So if you want to take pictures of your like work and post that with your homework assignments, that's fine. I know several of y'all had attached pictures and stuff to either your Canvas submission or to the, or to like another, like within the Word document or as a separate, separate thing, a separate file. Either one of those is fine. And then last but almost not least is how to create a table in Word. I know a lot of folks did draw out a frequency table for me, and that's fine. I don't really mind if you draw them, but you will probably need to know how to do this in the future. So creating a table in Word is super easy, right? So I tell you to create a frequency table for the following data, right? Number of dogs somebody has. All you gotta do, right, is go up to insert, hit table. It's even easier in Google Docs. I'm the kind of person who never counts things out before I do them, so I tend to make my tables super large, right? And then I would say, right, something like number of dogs, frequency, percent, cumulative percent. Be careful with your abbreviations of cumulative percent. There's some fun ones in the homework, right? It starts to look kind of funny when you, depending on how you abbreviate it, right? Right, frequency 0, so super easy, right? Just going through, counting, and just put them in your frequency table like this. It's a lot easier formatting wise and just ease of readability for me, right? Something like that. Also with your frequency tables, you insert 0 below because I never do enough. Right, make sure you have your N, your total number, right? That should always be included somewhere in your frequency table because that helps us. Right? I'm not going to do all the percentages, but you get the idea, right? How we do things in Word. That's that. Right over here. Yeah, that's quick homework notes. Cool beans. So, yes, SPSS. What is SPSS? It is the statistical package for the social sciences. That's what it used to be called. Because it has a lot bigger usage now, it is not just being used for the social sciences. They have sort of changed the name, and it is now Statistical Product and Service Solutions. But it was primarily used for the social sciences in its early iterations. The biggest pro of SPSS is that it is super user-friendly. Almost everything is done through drop-downs, like drop-down menus and things to click around in. It's probably the easiest statistical software to start on. There's other ones like Stata and R and Python, but those all require you to put codes in, right? You have to know the codes and type in, right? You're essentially doing coding to do the math. But SPSS is great because all you have to do is just click the buttons that you want. So that makes it super, super easy. But that also tends to be one of the biggest cons of SPSS. Because of how user-friendly it is, it means that you can run all these tests and have no idea what the heck you're doing, right? You can just start clicking buttons and it'll run it if it's possible to do it. But it makes it so that for folks, right, who are just clicking around and just doing things, it makes it way too easy to just click buttons, run tests, and get numbers and not have any idea what you're doing, how you're doing it. So it's one of the things to sort of watch for, right? So once we're in SPSS, you'll really get to see what that looks like. But be careful, right, that you are not clicking on things that you don't want to click on, right? You can try it, you can always undo it later. But it tends to lead to folks, right, not totally understanding what they're doing once they are in SPSS. So before I'll give you a little rundown of what we're going to talk about on SPSS today, but I think we'll probably take up most of our time doing this importing of the data set, right, locating the variable and their basic information, how to figure that stuff out, how to create a frequency table and graphs from SPSS, how to take a screenshot. It's going to be super important if you don't already know how to take a screenshot and put it into a Word document. And if we have time, we'll start talking about recoding variables. So for those of you who are in the room, make sure your computers are on, you're logged in, because things just don't want to work for me the way that they are supposed to. These computers are supposed to have SPSS on them, but unfortunately they don't somehow. So we are all going to be using Citrix together. If you are on the computers here, Citrix is already downloaded for you. If you are at home, you should have hopefully already downloaded Citrix. So for those of you here, right, you can just hit the start button and go to Citrix Workspace, and that will open up your thing here that gives you all of the apps that you have access to through UNCG. So this should look the same essentially as it does for folks at home. You should all be seeing all of these different apps. You can go ahead and open SPSS statistics if you want, but before we do that, we also, I keep opening Firefox. We also need to make sure that we have our data downloaded. So our data set is posted on Canvas. So you may want to go over to Canvas on your web browser, find our class and find files. Once you're in files, right, our data set is going to be here in this PSS10 SPSS.sav. We'll hit it, we'll download it. And then close all those. All right, when you download it, right, it pops up in the bottom. Tell it to show you where it is, either like view folder. I know on a Mac, it's like show in Finder. Make sure you know where that is, because it just took me like 15 minutes to figure out how to get to my data once I downloaded it to get it into SPSS. So make sure you know where that is. So once I find SPSS, I'm going to open it. And This is frustrating because Citrix takes a little bit of time. It's not a big fan of using this super large format. There we go. So once we get it open, we're going to get this first page. Is everybody along with me so far? Okay. All right. So once we are here, right, we are going to, I find it easier to go to recent files here and open another file to find it. So we have to figure out where we saved it, right? Mine is on local disk C, and then users, and then me, and then downloads, and then I found it. Again, make sure you know where to find yours because it just took me a hot minute to figure this out to get it to open. Once we get there, we hit open, and it's going to show us our data whenever it does this. The output is going to pop up a warning, just ignore it, it doesn't matter. And then this is what we'll see. I would also encourage you, might be worth looking at, is also pulling up our first SPSS project thing from Canvas, opening that. This will also, right, so I'm going to talk you through how to do all these things, but your homework also, like your thing that tells you what to do for homework, also tells you what things to click on and how to do these things. So if you are working on this later on and I'm not around, right, it'll tell you what things to click on. So that tends to be super, super handy as well. It's sort of like a little guide. How are we doing? Do we have our data set open? Have we found it? Nope. Right. Nope. So, yep, the opening somehow is like, they're weird on these computers. So you should, if it downloaded like mine did, right, you would go to, right, look in local disk C under desktop, and then users, and then your name should be there. Do you see this? And then when you hit downloads again, yes, all right, we got one. So like part of that, this part is way easier, I think, on your home computer because it's, I know how to navigate my file system on my own computer a lot easier than these. So it's only going to be hard the first time. Once we do some stuff with this data set, we're going to resave it and save it in a much easier, better defined location. Did you find it? You got it? Everybody in the room along with us. Okay, cool. All right, so we should see now, right, we have our variables, as well as, right, all this stuff, right, gives us a lot of information. Right, we have data view down here, or we can click to variable view. If we click variable view, it shows us, right, all of the names of the variables. It shows us the labels of the variables, right, so what questions were asked. It gives us a lot of information here in this first little page. If you remember, right, I asked you to look through these variable options, right, in the code book, and if you needed it, and pick the variable that you wanted to follow for the semester. So I'm going to go through a couple sample things about how to do some things with just random variables. But if you want to follow along with me and want to do this with the variable that you have chosen, that might not be the worst idea. Right, so we got our SPSS window open right here. Again, we have data view and variable view. And so, right, the first thing that we are going to want to do, right, we've imported our data set, we got it here. We're going to want to find information. We're going to want to find our variable that we're following along with for the semester. And we're going to want to know some things about it. You can, again, find it under data view if you go this way, but you get more information here under variable view. Right, so you can find whichever one you want. I'm going to work through some ones that y'all didn't have the option of picking. So I am going to look at the age of respondent, right? So this is one that we'll probably end up using to do some other data stuff with. And we are going to start by just getting some information about it. So to do that, we are going to hit utilities up here at the top. Right, was that fourth to the last one? And then we just hit variable. Once we hit variable, you'll see this little window pops up. And again, it's going to give us it as the label here. Let's see. So we're just gonna have to scroll through and find, right, the one that we're looking for. So I'm looking for age of respondent. Let's see, yep, that's the one I wanted. But you may have to click around a little bit to find the one that you're looking for. Again, so once we get here, this is gonna give us lots of information about our variable. It's gonna tell me what it's labeled as, right, what the name is, the name of the variable, what the label is, right? Oftentimes we are going to put information in the label. Our names are like very limited, right? You can't have a space, you can't have any special characters, things like that with the name of the variable. So oftentimes in the label is where you'll put more information, right? Because once we start making our own variables, manipulating these variables and changing them around, you'll start to forget what you've done. It happens to all of us. So that's why these labels are super important. Don't just ignore the type, because that doesn't mean anything to us right now. It'll also tell us what the missing values are. So when I do a survey, right, I survey everybody and maybe 2 people didn't answer that question, right? It might be missing, there might be some sort of issue. And so things are going to be coded, right, as this will tell me what equals missing. So if it's coded as a 0, as 98 or 99, that tells me that it's missing those values. Otherwise, right, it has these labels, right, labels, values. But all the other values, because I have a, right, a type of variable, right, that has all of these different options, that's what that's going to look like. But if I just click this next one, right, who is single, right, who is not married, this will say, right, IAP is another code for missing, right, or did not answer, don't know, NA, didn't answer. So, but this will still tell me, yes is coded as 1, no is coded as 0, right, let's see. So what is your social class, right? So IAP didn't answer, lower class is coded as 1, working class coded as 2, so on and so forth, right? So again, it's going to tell me, right, what's missing, like what type of values equal missing, as well as the type of measurement. Sometimes it's wrong, it guesses, right? So don't always trust that, use your brain and what you have learned as far as what nominal, ordinal, and interval ratio variables are, but it tries, it does its best over there, right? And so, right, this gives us some good information about the variable. It's going to be super useful later on. And this is also something that you're going to need to know for your homework, right? Your first question on the SPSS project just asks you to tell me what's the variable name, right? What's the label, and what are the possible values, right? So values here, labels for each of those values, right? So when I ask you to tell me what the possible values are, I'm not really asking you to tell me these 0, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9s. I'm asking you to tell me what the answer options are, right? So if you chose this variable, right, confidence in military, and I asked you to tell me what the possible values were, right, you can tell me, you can have these 1, 2, 3, whatever in there, but really what I want to know is how is it measured, right? What are the options? What are the question options? So this tells us, right, how to find our variable info, right? Super basic information. Again, this is going to be handy to keep in mind later on. So I am actually going to I'm not going to keep it open now, but we might want to come back to that, especially once we start recoding variables. But before we get there, let's start with how to do a frequency table and make charts and graphs and all kinds of cool stuff. So right, the easiest way to do that is to come up here to the top. We are going to hit analyze, right? And you will see, right, all of these different types of statistical tests that you can do. And we're not going to touch the vast majority of them. We want to go to descriptive statistics. And then from descriptive statistics, we want to hit frequencies, right? Which is going to let us make a frequency table. So here again, you'll see on the left side that it's showing you the variable label, not the variable name. I find it so much easier to right click and hit display variable names because then they have it nice and alphabetized for us, at least for now, until we start adding things in. And it's just, to me, a lot easier to find mine that way. Once I know what variable I'm using, then it becomes way easier for me to find what I'm looking for. All right, so I'm going to pick this one, right? Should marijuana be legal? I'm going to move it over. Right, so now I have my variable. Right, then from here, so I'm telling it that this is the one that I want it to run a frequency table on. From here, I may want to check and look at the statistics. So it will tell me some stuff already, but maybe I want it to tell me, right, the mode. Right, we know we can't get a mean for a opinion question, right? So we're not going to be able to get a mean or a median since it's right, not that type of variable. And then I'm going to hit continue for now. We don't need to know any of that other information. But maybe I want them to make me a pie chart along with it. So if I have charts, you can type in your chart type, and you can tell it if you want it to give us a frequency for the chart values or a percentage. We are going to be using the statistics thing for every SPSS project. We'll need to use SPSS unless you want. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that nobody wants to learn how to do coding for Stata. So we're going to use this for all of our SPSS projects. Once we do that, all right, there's some other stuff we can look at, but we don't really need to do that. And I'm going to hit OK. Again, and then our output guy is going to pop up. And when that does, you'll be able to see that it has given you a frequency table. All right, so here I can see that there are 920 people who answered this question, and 580 are missing. So then I come down here and I can see my frequency table, right? So 434 said legal, is 28.9%, right? 486 people said not legal, 32.4%. Right, and then that has valid percents, cumulative percents, and totals. But you'll notice that they have included these missing values down here in the percentages and frequencies to get the total information. So that might not be exactly what we wanted, but it will also show me, right, this nice pie chart that it made for my two questions, for my two responses. But sometimes we're going to want to, right, get rid of some of that extra stuff. Right, we maybe don't want that included in our analysis, right? Because that doesn't really help me understand, right, what is going on. Right, so right, what I'm going to do then is maybe I want to recode it, right, so that it doesn't tell me that same stuff. Right, so did it not tell me the mode? Where's my mode? Interesting. Why are you not here? Anyways, oh yeah, there it is, mode 2, number that appear most often. So that's going to tell us, right, not necessarily which answer is the mode, but that's where those values come in handy. Right, those values tell us what that number means. So if we go back over here to our information, right, utilities, variables. Right, then if I come back down here and find my should marijuana be legalized question. Right, whatever, it'll tell me, right, once you find it, it will tell you, right, what that 2 means. Where it is. Looking on that is hard. I'm going to go cancel that. I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to go on my variable view. I can also do it over here. Right. So I'm going to find graphs here because that's way easier. And values. I click that little dot, dot, dot. And that little dot, dot, dot will tell me what the value and label is for each option. So there are multiple ways to find just about anything you want to do in SPSS. It's another handy thing about it. So again, this little dot, dot, dots under variable view, under the values, will again tell you what the numbers are that what numbers represent what answer. Super handy. So this tells me that the mode for my question was 2, which means the majority of people think that, or the most frequent answer was not legal. Okay, so that is our frequency table, importing and locating variables and their basic information. Everybody with me so far? Nope. Yes. So do you want me to do another frequency table? Okay. So I'm going to do another frequency table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit analyze at the top. And then the second one, or third one, I guess, descriptive statistics. It's going to take me to the first option there as frequency. I'm going to move my that variable back over and pick a different one. So I'm going to pick age, right? Because that way I can do more tests this way with that type of variable. I'm going to move it over. And again, I can hit statistics and it will give me lots of options, right? As far as different things I can do. Again, we'll get to a lot of this other stuff later on, but for right now, we're just going to look at mean, median, and mode because of the type of variable I have. The options that you had for which ones to choose for your variables, I don't know that any of them are numerical, right, in that way, or interval ratio. So for the most part, your variable that you're working on this semester, you won't be able to do these statistics on, mean, median, and mode, at least not for now. So again, I'm gonna hit continue. I have them doing a pie chart, right? But I don't know that I really want a pie chart for age, so I might change that to a bar chart. Right, change that over to percentages. Again, just playing around with it a little bit. I mean, once I've got all my settings the way that I want it to, all I do is hit OK. And then our output is always going to pop up, and it's going to give us what we are looking for. So again, it's going to tell us how many are valid, how many responses are valid, how many responses are missing. And then also here, it tells me my mean, median, and mode that I asked for. So the average age of the respondents are 49.2. Right, the median right in the middle, 49. And the most frequent response was that our person was 29 years old. Again, I can scroll down and I can see my frequency chart, right? So this can tell me how many people for each age group, right? What percentage of the sample that is, and then the cumulative percent, right? Adding it up. So, right, it just gives me all of my basic stuff. And then I asked for a bar chart this time, so it gave me a bar chart. Super handy. Now, one of the things that you have to do for your homework is to paste outputs from SPSS into your homework. So you could try copying, right? I can right click, hit copy on my frequency chart and try to paste it into here. But actually, that's not too bad. They have updated it since I was using it a lot, and they didn't used to do the formatting for you when you pasted it. So that's handy, right? You can copy it and just paste it right on in. Makes it super, super easier than it used to be. You can also do screenshots, which is how we used to have to do it back in my day. At which point, right, in which case I would do on a Windows computer, this Windows button, Shift and S together. And that allows me to just take a screenshot of a portion of my screen, if that's what I want to do. And then I can paste it like that. But since it looks like they have fixed that copy and paste error, don't you worry about taking screenshots, just copy it from the output. That looks way easier and way nicer in the document. So, right, copy and paste, super easy as far as getting that into your homework, right? Taking it from the output, putting it in the homework. How do we feel about frequency tables? You want to do another one? Maybe, yes, no, maybe. All right, so say let's see, yes, we want to do another one, or we're feeling good. That was not a clear question that I asked. Uno más. So let's see, let me pick a different variable this time. Maybe I want to look at, right, women are not suited for politics. Maybe that's the one I want to do. So again, I'm going to hit analyze, descriptive statistics. frequencies. Again, the variable that I already had over there is always going to reappear. So I need to bring it back on over, right, with this little arrow guy. I'm going to find that variable that I want, right, people. I'm going to bring her over. And again, I can look at statistics, right? I had it set it for telling me the mean, median, and mode, but I don't want to do that right now because, right, this is not a interval ratio variable, so mean and median won't mean anything. I can still do mode if I want. Right, I might want to do a pie chart like that, right? And then once we are here, right, we have all of our statistics and charts the way we want them. We just hit OK. Once we hit OK, again, it pops up. Right, output is always going to pop up for you whenever you run anything at all. So it pops up and gives you what you're looking for. So again, valid, or 965 valid responses, 535 were not. And then we look at agree or disagree, right? We see that the vast majority of folks thankfully disagree that women are not suited for politics. And right, gives us all this information, cumulative percent, valid percent, blah, blah, blah. And then right, the pie chart that I asked for. Note that they do not give you the, right, the percentage things here. So, right, you don't have to do this for your homework, but if you did, you would probably want to come back in and edit and add in those percentages, right, those categories. Tell me how much of a percent this is. It does give you our label of agree and disagree, but it does not tell us what percentage it is. So, right, those are our frequency tables. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to look at how to recode a variable. This will probably take a decent amount of time, and we'll go through it a couple times. There are two ways to do this. I'm going to show you the hard way first, because that's how we do things, right? So let's look at the hard way first. I'm going to pick a variable that I want to do. And so maybe I'm going to pick, what's this one? Feelings about the Bible. How many answers do I have? Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to pick out a variable. I'm going to need to know what these values are. I might suggest like writing them down, or you can pull things off to the side. But SPSS gets really angry about what you can have open. So right now I have value labels open, and it won't let me click anything else. So this is going to be where going to that, right, the variable infos, the utilities, variables, and picking it this way. This might be, maybe it'll let us do this. I think it does. So feelings about the Bible, right, is open. So now I might move this over here where I can still sort of see it, right, because I'm going to need to know this information, and hope that it lets me now do a test. Yes, it will. Okay. I didn't mean that. That was a lie. Okay. So again, if it's easier to sort of read along with what the instructions are and just listening to me, you can look at this on your homework, and it tells you what commands to do. So we're going to recode this variable. So to do that, we're going to hit transform. And then we're going to go to recode into different variable. Again, I am going to find my variable. I like to do variable name. If it is easier for you to do the variable label, then do it that way. But I find this easier. To find my variable, Bible, and I'm going to bring it over. So now, right, I have to name my output variable, right? This is the one that it's changing, it's creating for me. So I'm going to call that, right, maybe Bible recode. And I'm going to label that as my label. I'm going to tell myself what I'm recoding. So recoded to take out missing. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm doing. So then I'm going to hit old and new values. And when I hit old and new values, it's going to pop this up for me. And then this is where this little thing about the value and the label is going to come in handy. So I'm going to tell it what the old value is and what I want the new value to be. So right now, right, if I think maybe I'm going to recode it so that word of God and inspired word, right, are like positive responses. And then Book of Fables is a negative response, right? Maybe that's something that I want to do. So my old value for positive ones, right, are 1 and 2. So value for 1, right, I'm going to make a new value as 1. And then when I do that, I hit add. And then it's going to keep that the same. But, right, because I want to collapse 2 into this category of, right, positive right, beliefs in what the Bible is, I'm going to take value 2, right, which corresponds to, right, they think that it is an inspired word. I think that I'm going to code that as a positive thing. So I am going to make that also 1 now. I'm going to look over here, Book of Fables, that's negative, right? So the old value for Book of Fables was 3. And I am going to make that new value 2. You can make these values, these numbers, anything you want, but it tends to keep things easier if you just stick to like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So maybe I want to see what the, right, maybe I don't want that many options. Or this can also be how we can recode it into a dummy variable, right? So maybe I just want, so I'm going to remove that one that I last did. And I'm going to change this to a dummy variable of a positive view of the Bible or, right, not positive. So either other or, right, either other or whatever. So now I have 1 is coded as positive, right? And our dummy variables, remember, we're going to do everything that we want as like our answer that we're looking for, right? So if I am looking to see if the variable, like their response is positive, right? Everybody who's positive would be 1. And then literally everything else is 0, right? And then we use these dummy variables, remember, to see if, right, to be able to take our nominal and ordinal variables and do more stuff with them, right? I can find the mean of a dummy variable. I can find things like that I can't normally do with these nominal variables. So it's going to be handy to recode them into dummy variables sometimes, right? And so if I am trying to recode it into a dummy variable, and I want to say that people who think that the word of God and the inspired word, I want to know all of those people, and I don't care about anybody else, right? So in that case, I'm going to recode it as word of God is 1, inspired word then becomes 1, and then I'm going to tell it, right, those are the only 2 that I care about. So then I'm going to say all other values now get the value of 0, right? And right, I'm going to add that. And maybe I want it, right, to have the system missing, right, system or user missing. I still want that to be system missing, right, because otherwise that's going to tell me, right, that all the missing ones that I had are now going to be lumped in with the zeros, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to make sure that my missing and system missing, all that stuff, that is still going to be counted as missing and not counted as a non-response to, like, right, a negative response to the Bible. So I do all that, I get my values, and then I just hit continue. And then to finish it up, we hit the button of change, right? So now I'm going to change my label because I changed my mind. So I'm going to say dummy variable positive response only, right? And then that way I'll remember. So change, that button, and then I'm going to hit OK. Once I do that, right, you'll see it always tells you what it's done. So recode Bible 1, 1, 2, right, tells me what I did. What doesn't have any variable labels yet, but the variable label, right, is Bible recode, as well as the name and the variable label. So when I come back to my data set now, I am going to go all the way down to the bottom, all the way down. And there's my new variable, Bible recode. Right. And so now, let's see, I want to know some information about this. Right, so you can also, right, to get your simple descriptive statistics, you can always right-click on the variable and hit that, and it'll pop up with your chart also. But you don't get the options, right, of looking at these other statistical tests when you do the right-click, which will be important later. But, right, this tells me, right, everything that is 0, that I marked as 0, is like frequency, percent, valid percent, everything I marked as 1, right? So it now has this with my new variable. But I'm still going to want to know what that 0 and 1 is, because when I come back tomorrow to work on this, I'm not going to remember what the heck 0 and 1 is, right? That doesn't mean anything to us. So again, looking at this variable view, I can find my variable, go over here to the value labels, and right now I can add things, right? So value 0 is, I might label as negative view of Bible, right? Add that. Value 1, right, which was how I made my dummy variable, is labeled positive view of Bible. Add that, right? And then I hit OK. And now if I run a descriptive statistics, hey, look, it tells me what those things are, right? As opposed to up here with just a 0 and a 1 that didn't mean anything to anybody. I can rename those labels, and then that way when I run my statistical test, I can know which thing it's talking about, right? Because again, if I come back tomorrow, I probably won't remember. Maybe because of my label, I might remember that I made it positive response only. But this is going to be way easier, right, to interpret and to look at. So let's recode some other variables, right? Because we'll make some more dummies. Because this can, right? Repetition is key, right? I don't know where I lost my track to. Is everybody online following along with me? Yeah, where'd you go? Okay. Always feel free to stop me at any point if I have completely lost you. Right, let's see, which one am I going to recode now? Yes, so we will really do a lot of recap of this on Wednesday, as well as, because really the farthest that you go for your first homework or your first SPSS project is recoding and using dummy variables. So we're going to do most of this again on Wednesday. So if you are falling behind with me, don't worry, no fear, we're going to keep doing it. So I am going to recode another variable as a dummy variable. So let's see. So if I want to know, let's see, don't care about race. Right, these are people, right? So these are people who say, right, that they are colorblind, don't care about race. Right, they either strongly agree, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree, don't know, NA, whatever. So I'm going to pick this one. So colorblind, need to remember that. Again, I'm going to want to go and look right under utilities, hit variables. Right, I'm going to want to remember what all of these variable things are. Right, don't care about race, that's all right because I selected it here. That's also it's going to be already popped up and highlighted for me. And I'm going to want to remember what these values are. So again, I'm just going to drag that somewhere in my screen if the Zoom will let me. Yeah, okay. I got it real fast. I'm going to hide it over here in the corner so I can still operate and know what's going on. But I'm going to keep that over there so that I can go over here to transform. All right, when I want to make a new variable, I hit transform. I want to recode it into a different variable. If I hit recode into the same variable, it is going to change that variable forever. I can undo it, right, obviously, or I can re-download the original file. But we want to make sure that we're recoding it into a different variable so that we're not messing with the original, right? Because we're always going to want to be able to go back and look at the original, especially if we're making dummy variables. So hit recode. I'm going to bring this guy back over because remember, it's always going to keep what I did last. And still be able to find the Zoom recordings, and you can watch me do it as many times as you want. So I'm going to find which one I'm doing right now. Which one am I doing right now? It's colorblind. I'm going to come back over here, find that one, and I'm going to bring it over. All right, my new one, output name is colorblind dummy. Right, so I can do that. Label is going to be, right, so agree to being colorblind, right? So now I am going to go to old and new values. And so this is, again, where this variable information is going to come in handy. So I am going to clear out all of this stuff from the last one because it's always going to remember everything that you did before because that's SPSS for you. So you want to make sure that all of that is gone if you're recoding a different variable. so that you don't end up doing the wrong thing. And so, right, my new variable that I've decided to make, I am only doing folks who agree that they should be colorblind. Right, so people who agreed to be colorblind are going to be people who answered strongly agree or somewhat agree. Right, so that's 1 and 2. So I might want to do this individually. I can do this as old value 1, new value 1, add, old value 2, new value 1, add, or, right, because I know 1 and 2, I can save myself a step and I can go over here and I can do range. Right? I can just do 1 through 2. This will come in handy in a little bit when we start looking at how to do this for a variable that has a bajillion responses. So, right, range, I'm going to add that. New value is 1 because that is my dummy variable. That's the one I care about, are people who have agreed to this question. So then I'm going to say anything that's system missing or user missing, keep that as system missing so that it doesn't, like, if I didn't do that, right, remember there were like, you know, certain number of people who didn't answer the question. Right, like maybe 500 people didn't answer that question. If I don't hit system missing or user missing and keep that as system missing, it's going to lump all of those in with the people that I tell it don't agree with this, right? So we want to make sure that we keep our system missing separate. Again, our old value, again, now I'm going to look for the folks who disagreed, right? So that's 3 and 4. And now those people get coded as 0, right? Because our dummy variables, all of the values are either going to be 0, 1, or missing. So, right, the old value for this, right, 3 and 4. So I'll do it individually this time. Right, 3, old value is 3, new value 0. Add. Then old value is 4, right, with strongly disagree, value 4. I'm going to do 0. And I'm also going to add in those people who said that they didn't know, right? They answered, I don't know, to the question. And so that means that they don't agree at least, right? So I'm going to add them in as 0. And now I've got all of my values, right? 1 through 2, right, where the agrees, so they are now 1. The other people who disagreed or didn't know are now 0. And then everybody who was missing is still missing. I can even sort of go back and double check myself, right, and sort of go do more than I need to. Right, I could try to include NA, right, again, as a system missing. That's fine, I can do that. If we do it again, right, if we overlap it, it's fine. It'll still do what we want it to do. And then all I'm going to do is hit continue. Right, I got all this. I have my new name. I have my label, which reminds me what I'm doing for later on. And then when I hit change, I hit OK. And again, it pops up that it has made this new variable. I'm going to want to go back to SPSS and look for it. And again, your new one is always going to be at the very bottom. And look, here we are, colorblind dummy. Right, agree to being colorblind. Again, you can right-click for descriptive statistics if you just want a simple frequency chart, but again, you're not going to be able to tell it exactly what you want it to do. So this is handy for right now and to check yourself, but for certain things that we'll do, you'll need to go into the top menu. But this will tell me, right, at least 0 is valid, right, 1, right, all of that. Again, probably won't remember tomorrow what 0 and 1 mean. So I may want to go over here to value labels and change that, right? So if it has a value of 0, that means, right, disagree, add that, right? If they have a 1, that's going to be people who agree. Add that, okay. So now when I run my descriptive statistics and get my frequency table up, now it's going to tell me something that makes more sense, right, that anybody could look at. So folks who agreed to be a colorblind, right, it tells me that. Right, 0 or 1 doesn't mean a lot to other people, so we want to know what our variable values are. Now, I told you that that was the hard way. There's an easy way and a hard way. And so this is going to, depending on what your variable looks like, how all that stuff works, right? So when we go in and do race, we're not going to be able to just easily, right? Because the race, let's see, for your homework, you have to do race, right? And so, yeah. I think that's the right one. What's that one called that we're looking for? We are looking for, yeah, race send 1. So we're gonna go over here, race send 1. Where are you? race, send one, there you are. Right, so if we look at this, right, this has a bunch of options, right? So it's not gonna work initially to do this for this one, but if we look over here at our, let's do Bible, view of Bible, right here, right, that's only got a few options. So if I wanna make a dummy variable out of Bible, I can also go up here to transform, and instead of recoding into different variables, I can also hit create dummy variables, and it will do it for me. So again, when that pops up, I like to look at it this way. If I find my variable, I bring Bible over. I can either tell it to use the values, right, the numbers, or I can have it use value labels. You're probably going to want to use value labels because that's going to help, right, for you to know what on earth it is. Right, and so for root names, now maybe I'm going to put Bible dummy. Right, so I do that, ignore all the rest of the stuff because it's not going to matter for what we're doing. Why is this so big? I can't see the bottom. Oh man, really, you're just not going to let me get to the bottom? Okay, cool. I can't see the bottom of this thing. Why is it doing this to me? Nope, it won't let me make it smaller and I can't get to the bottom. If I could get to the bottom, I don't know why it's doing this, but if I could get to the bottom, there would be an option for me to tell it okay. But somehow it won't let me. I can tell that it's right there. Cool, don't we love technology? It's so much fun. Cool, this is great. Cool, who needs to see their whole screen? What if I, pause please, Zoom people. Wonder if I do that, if it'll help me. Nope, it sure doesn't help me when I do that, does it? Cool, cool, cool. Well, fine. This is a way to do it, but it doesn't want to let me get to the bottom of the screen. So cool, 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 cool. That's fine. Sure. So I will record this from home and show you how to do this on my computer because my computer doesn't block my stuff like this. Cool. Don't know how to fix that. Cool. So that is a way to do a variable, like to recode it that way. I tend to not do it that way though. I don't like to do it that way really because I don't get as much control. And one of the things that it does is it's going to create a dummy variable for every single response. And like I said, for this race variable that we have for your question in the homework, it gives you so many different ones, right? You may not want, right, what is that, 16 different dummy variables, right? That's too many. We don't need all that many. So when we have that many options, right, one of the things that we are going to try to do with these recoding, with all this recoding stuff, is trying to sort of collapse some categories. So this is going to be another reason why we want to recode variables, not necessarily as a dummy variable, but also just to recode it, right? Recoding sometimes is helpful when it gives us all of those responses, right? So you remember when I did age, go back up here to age, right? That is a bunch of options, right? And that makes it kind of hard to see and understand and like really, right, grasp super easily. So I might want to collapse this to people under the age of 30, people between 31 and, right, what, 60, and then people over 60, right? I might want to collapse that, something like that, so that it's easier to sort of look at and group people into categories. We might also want to do that like for education, right? If it asks a bunch of different education questions like, right, what's your level of education? And it gives GED, like no high school diploma, GED, high school diploma, some college, like AA degree, BA degree, right? It gives you way too many options. We may want to condense our categories, right? Because it makes it a lot easier to sort of do analysis that way. And so when we go into recoding variables, right, let's start with this, start on this race thing, because it's another example of recoding. So we got a race, right? I want to know what all of these variable values are. So I'm going to go up here to utilities, put variables again, right? Have my little doodad tell me what all of the values are. And right, so that is telling me that right, 0, right, all those things. So in the homework, right, it asks you, homework asks you to recode this variable into a new variable titled race with only 3 values, white, black, and other. Right, so what we're gonna do, right, I'm keeping this over here, and I want to transform that variable, right? So again, I'm gonna hit transform, I'm gonna hit recode into a different variable. Again, gotta move all my old stuff over, go back to that variable, so find it down here, race and 1, 2, right, I'm gonna move that over. It tells you what to rename it, so you're gonna rename it as race. And I'm gonna label it race, options, white, black, other. So that way I'll remember it later. Go to old and new values. And so again, to recode, I'm gonna look at the old value. So, well, first I'm gonna figure out all of these. All right, and going over here to the old values, right? First, I have white is already value 1. That's one of the new ones that I want to right, keep as it is. So I'm just going to have old value as 1 and new value as 1. Super easy. Next, I'm going to go over to, right, our next value is 2 for Black or African American. That's another category that I want to keep the same. So I'm just going to keep that the same. You can also hit copy old value if you want. It works just the same. Now, I want to say that everybody else, right, who answered this question, right, they are now going to go into this other category, right? So I'm going to make that value 3, right, or sorry, old value. I want to select my old value. For this one, it's going to be way easier to pick range. Now, you see, unfortunately, I can't see where that range goes, right? I can't click over here because it's already got this menu popped up. So right now, I'm just going to hit continue. Right, because as long as I don't hit change and okay, it's not going to make that variable be that yet. So we'll leave that where it is for now, and I'm going to see what all is going to count now as my range for the other race. So 3 all the way up through, right, Hispanic, right, some other race Hispanic. So 3 through 16 is now what I'm going to recode as my third one, right? So I'm going to hit range 3 through 16. And then I am going to make that new value just be 3. Add. So now, right, everything else should go into system missing, right? Everything else should be something that I don't need. So I'm gonna hit that. Again, hit continue. Once I'm done, hit change. And now this guy is available for me to hit okay. I'm gonna hit okay. And it's made this new variable for me. So one thing that you may want to do when doing something like this is to check yourself. So I'm going to have it give me descriptive statistics for that initial question, right? Not the recoded one, but the initial one. And I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to ask it to give me descriptive statistics for my new variable. Remember, I haven't changed these, so I'm going to go in real quick and change my values so that I know what I'm looking at. Right, so the new value, I had 1 as white, the way that it was. I had 2 as Black, African American, and 3 as other. So now I'm gonna know what I'm looking at, and this is gonna help me make sense and let me know if I did this right. I'm gonna okay, I'm gonna run statistics again so that I have answers like this. And so, right, I see here, my frequency for white is 1,144. So I'm going to scroll back up to my last one and make sure that I didn't lose anybody, right? I'm also going to look here for Black or African American, right? That frequency before I messed with it was 215. Okay, 215, awesome. Right, still have the same number of frequency. And then everyone else should be right under other. With 17 system missing, let's make sure that that's still the same. Oh, wow, look what I've done. Right, I now have, right, yep, that's right. So now my total missing, right, is 17. So instead of having these categories collapse between like don't know, NA, right, whatever, now it's just missing system total, right? So collapse that as well. And so when we go in and we make a new variable like this, it tends to be a really good idea to go back and look at that original variable and make sure that our frequencies match up, right? To make sure that we did our range right, things like that. The first time I did this, like I did all of these through practice before a class. The first time I did it, I think I stopped at one of them. I didn't count Hispanic for some reason because it was after other, which in my head I thought was just logically the last one, which it was not. And then my totals were off, my missing system, all that stuff was off. So you have to go back and fix it, make sure that you've got, right, everything sort of matches the way that it should. Because we shouldn't have gotten rid of anybody, right? We just collapsed everybody else into this other category. So again, let's see if it'll let me do it this time. Let's see if it'll let me do a dummy variable this time. Nope, it's not that. Form. Okay, dummy. Nope, I still can't see it. Cool. So we won't do it that way. But right, the way that I can do it, right, to make a dummy variable into this is, again, just recoding into a different variable. Right now, I'm not using that one anymore. I am using my new race variable as my new variable. All right, so then output name, I might want to do, right, race, dummy, white. I'm going to tell myself dummy variable with race recode 1 equals white. Right, that's going to help me later. So again, old and new values. Right, it's really helpful if you remember to have your right, your codes up. But because I just made this variable, I already know. Right, my old value for white was 1. That's also going to be my new value for white. Right, the only other 2 values I had in that variable were 2 and 3, and those are now going to be 0. Add that. Anything that was system missing should still be system missing. Right, and continue. Right, change. Okay. And now I have a dummy variable for race for white. Right, so when I hit that, right, everything that is 1, right, all of the folks who answered as they were white is, right, they are 1, everyone else is 0 on this dummy variable, right, and these numbers are still going to match up with what we had before. Right, still have 17 system missing, right, that's the number of white respondents we had before, and if we add, right, Black, African American, and other race together, we get 339, so I know that I did that right. Again, I may want to relabel so that we know what we're looking at. Right, value 0 is not white, and value 1 is white. Hit that, and I say okay. Right, and then when I run my descriptive statistic again, right now it tells me, right, my sample, right, 76% of the general social survey for this year, right, were white respondents, and 22.6 were non-white. And then, right, what you're going to want to do is go through and do that a couple more times, but changing, right, not just white, but you want to also do Black and other race for your homework, right? You want to make dummy variables for all 3 of these race categories that we made. I'm going to stop going and doing anything else now because we're at 3:07, and I assume there are questions. But again, we're going to go through most of the stuff and do almost the exact same thing again on Wednesday. So if we need practice or have questions, we can do that. How's everyone feel? Overwhelmed? Okay, that's cool. It's a lot, right? Right, it's learning a new program. It's all of that. Right, learning all this stuff about using this thing and trying to figure out how to make variables and what we're doing. But it's okay, right? Right now, this is really still fairly simple stuff, and we'll just keep practicing it until we get it right. So, right, this is really what we're doing right now is just figuring out how to make frequency tables, which is what you've already done, right, by hand, just trying to get, right, SPSS to make those frequency tables for us. Right, we're also, right, going to be looking at, right, just this very basic stuff that we just learned how to do in Unit 1 by hand and just asking the computer to do it for us, right? So we are consolidating things, right, making it easier for us to work with this data. And so we'll just go through it again on Wednesday, right? We'll take it step by step and, right, we'll have all these videos are recorded. They'll be online for you guys. So when you're trying to work through them for homework, right, you can right, have them as a resource. I would encourage us maybe on Wednesday, right, to have this open, right? Have your homework open. It should be posted on Canvas, right, and sort of go through this with me. So we'll start back up at the top, right, going through all of this stuff again. And so, right, we'll select our variable, right? You'll be able to put down your, like, what the name of the variable is, what the label is, what the possible values are, and just go through, right, these steps that we're going to do again on Wednesday, and do them with your variables so that you know, right, so that you can walk along beside me, and hopefully get everything copied and pasted right. Yeah. So, yeah, so to get Citrix, MyCloud, whatever working, right, you'll just go, I don't know what it's going to tell me when I do it since I'm on a school computer, but it's just mycloud.uncg.edu. Right, so Citrix, I'm going to enter my credentials. Maybe if I can do that, right, and yeah, it wants me to have the app, which I do because I'm on the school computer. You'll probably want to download the app at home. Trying to run it through the internet and not running it through an app, I think, tends to make it kind of small, or not small, makes it hard. But yeah, you just go to mycloud.uncg.edu and it should bring you through to, right, it'll give you just steps if you need to download a program, but then it'll take you to just what we've done before. So that is how we do it. You can favorite things in here if you want, right? I favorite the ones that I use on a regular basis so that I don't have to go through everything. And yeah, that's how you do it from home. And in theory, once you get Citrix downloaded, you don't have to download any of these programs, and it should just run through the Citrix thing for you. All right, are we gonna make it through? Like, we're gonna make it through to Wednesday. I'm not gonna lose anybody between now and then. Again, if you have questions, it's cool. I am always happy to walk through things with you. If you are having troubleshooting issues, right, something is going wrong, and whenever you do something, it doesn't work, then that's fine. Just shoot me an email. We can do a Zoom call or something, and right, you can share your screen with me, and we can figure out what's going on and what's going wrong. But these first couple things that we're doing, right, this unit especially, right, everything that we're really going to do, our units that we do right by hand and in class are going to correlate with what we do in SPSS later on in that unit. So right now we're just doing frequency tables, super easy, right, super basic. It's remembering what to click on, right? There's a lot of that and sort of ignoring all of the other extra options that it gives you. But we're going to make it through it, I promise. All right. Cool. So I'm going to stop my share now. All right, I'm going to let you Zoom folks go on your merry way. Hopefully I will see some of y'all on Wednesday as we go through this. And